Friends from the Road. You are now listening to the Friends from the Road podcast.
Gaining new friends along the journey. Sharing stories that inspire, encourage, and motivate.
Friends from the Road podcast. Now here's your host, Daniel Hurd.
Welcome, everyone. It's a rainy day, and it's a day to stay inside, stay warm, and dry if possible. It's also a great day to catch up with old friends and get to chat with new ones as well. It's ramping up to biking and hiking season, and the Hostel season here in northern New Hampshire is coming out of hibernation. I'm here with my friend from the road that I met during my tour in 2018 when I visited my first hostel. That hostel is the Rattle River Lodge and Hostel. There I met Erik Barstow, a fellow veteran and native from Wisconsin that transplanted to the Northeast. He gave me an opportunity to stay here at a fully booked hostel when our mutual friend Tim connected us. And it's great to be here nearly 3 years later, seeing Erik in person yet again. Erik, thank you for having us, and thank you for coming on the show.
It's been awesome to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. So, it's an honor to have you on the show. I'm really excited for people to hear your story. But let's first start with a little bit of background. Let's go back to our connection, why we got so connected. It's because of veteran status. So obviously you're a veteran. We talked about that a little bit. But give us a little bit of a summary of your military time, your transition after the military.
You got it. Well, I joined the service pretty early at 17 years of age in high school. And then it was the Army Reserve. I was motor transport. Then when I graduated high school, went back, finished IT school, and then went to college again. And I felt like that wasn't for me. So then I ended up talking to a Marine Corps recruiter a couple years later, and then through a lot of paperwork, I was able to enlist into the Marine Corps, but having to go to boot camp again because everyone does the Marine Corps boot camp, so I had to do that, and then I just chose military police as my background. Doing military police stuff, a lot of same stuff that cops do in the real sector. I worked at Camp Pendleton, worked dispatch, 911 dispatch, some road patrolling, a lot of gate duty, but for the most of my part was 911 dispatch. Okay. So that was my favorite takeaway from that. And then when I got out, I went into corrections. I was a correctional officer for 3 years at a state prison. They considered a level 5 in Minnesota. Minnesota goes 1 through 6, and I worked at one just underneath the maximum security. Then after 3 years of that, I went to video school. And then I did some series of things with Medtronic, Target, Toyota, doing some commercials, some sports stuff with ESPN2. And I was getting into wedding photography and senior portraits. And then I ended up getting a bad case of Lyme disease in 2012.
In 2012, you got Lyme.
Mm-hmm.
And I just heard you say it. I know from our talks, it was pretty severe. It wasn't like a mild case of Lyme. Correct.
Yeah, it went misdiagnosed for a while, and then ended up taking my ability to walk. I had really bad neuropathy. Lyme doesn't necessarily may take your life physically, but mentally it takes you out of the game for a while. So I couldn't do anything. I was bedridden for months, trying to get better.
Now, you said it went misdiagnosed, undiagnosed. When did that change where it became known that it was actually Lyme that was the cause of it?
Well, it was July 5th. I woke up one morning and my foot was purple. That's when I know something was wrong initially. And then when I went to the emergency room, because I thought it was maybe a bad spider bite, it looked like a blood infection. The doctors felt like it was a blood infection, so they never really did any testing, because Lyme has a host of co-infections that are masking what Lyme is actually doing to your body. So while they were trying to figure out what was going on with me, Lyme was really sinking in hard, and it took a long time to come back from that.
I can imagine. Going through that process and all these different symptoms that you're dealing with, other, illnesses that you were fighting through. Did they all happen all at once, or were they kind of like one happened, you get better, the next one would happen? Or why did it take so long for it to tied to knowing that all these symptoms that you're dealing with became one reason?
A part of it, the different symptoms that I was experiencing, the random bruises, my brain function was slowing down. It felt like my brain was in some kind of a soup. And then I had the neuropathy that was in my foot. I couldn't even use my foot. And then it started attacking my nervous system somehow. And then the misdiagnosis or the non-treatment on the VA's part was they thought that I was injecting drugs in between my toes, and I wasn't. I was actually sick, and so they just weren't really putting the effort into my situation. And then the longer you wait with Lyme, the worse it gets in, and the harder it is to get rid of. And I went down a really bad route. But I had a doctor that said, hey, maybe we should test you for Lyme. Out of all the other blood tests and stuff that they did, this one random doctor that I saw just tapped his finger on his chin and said, you know what, we'll just check for Lyme. And that come back very positive. And it was just a series of all these different symptoms that I had. And then finally just took one doctor that had some background with Lyme disease to recognize it, that this might be something like that. And that's where I could start my treatment because I know what I was dealing with.
Yeah, and I bet at least getting that root and starting to be able to get that treatment really started to show you progress, right?
I started 90 days of doxycycline, and I wasn't sure if I was seeing any kind of progress. What they didn't tell me, and what I learned afterwards, when anyone is taking doxycycline, and this is working on all the bacteria in your system, all the good bacteria, all the bad bacteria on your skin and inside your gut and everything like that. So the progression of Lyme for me and my treatment with the doxycycline interrupts the reproductive process of the bacteria, and it starts releasing these different toxins into your system, kind of overloads your system with these toxins from this bacteria, and it puts you through a situation where you're going to be more sick than you ever thought. A lot of people have to stay out of the sunlight because the good bacteria is dead off your skin, and when you get a sunburn, you're allowing bad bacteria to take over that area of your body and then giving you more sun damage than you need. So that's why it's important for people to, when they take that doxycycline, is to listen to what you're supposed to do, is stay out of the sun, reduce your activity, drink water, eat vegetables, cut the sugar out of your diet. Sugar feeds bacteria, sugar feeds cancer. Breads, white breads that convert into sugar in your system, you got to starve it. And that was my mindset by meeting a Eastern medicine doctor in my town who was helping me treat Lyme. So changing my diet, going vegetarian. I wasn't sure about gluten or anything at the time, but because it was white bread and I knew that it converts into sugar, I
cut everything out.
Yeah, I cut it all out. Alcohol, everything. It was a complete lifestyle change from what I was used to. I didn't even know how to cook a vegetable, so I was just eating them raw. I couldn't stand in the kitchen anyway, so I just knew that vegetables were my way out. And then used the Eastern medicine method, and some of the herbs that he was giving me was basically to help increase blood flow throughout the system, drink lots of water, flush everything out. By understanding what the doxycycline is doing to the bacteria, you can lessen the symptoms or the side effects of the bacteria being killed off inside your body, and then start adding back in probiotics, usually towards the end of your doxycycline regimen. You start taking probiotics from which is found in a host of different things, from kombucha, where you can buy. What I did was the probiotic with the most strains. It's usually one that's $45 to $80, and you got to ask a pharmacist for it. You need to reintroduce as many strains back into your body as possible. And so by getting the really expensive one, you're kickstarting your gut and your system back up, because that's your second brain is in your stomach. Everything originates from your center.
Well, really, a lot of people say that's your first brain.
I take it, yeah, because when your
gut health is important.
Yep. I agree.
Now, so doing these regimens, changing your diet, changing your lifestyle, did you start seeing improvements right away, or did it take time?
It took time. September was probably my peak time of pain and a neuropathy, and I was wondering if I was even going to get close to better or progress that way. But it was months of slow progression with the nerve pain still happening, and working my way from basically a walker to a crutches to a cane, and then in about a year's time I was able to walk without a noticeable limp, without the untrained eye.
Okay.
From July 5th, it was about a year or so I could actually start walking kind of normal.
That's a long, it's a long, hard process, but determination helps. So I already know that you have a lot of determination for yourself, so I'm glad that you're able to get back into it.
Thanks.
But what I'm really curious about is, how did you come, because you were all in the Midwest northern area of the country. How did you get transplanted from there to New Hampshire?
Oh, yeah, that's a fun story. I get that asked quite often, owning a hostel and being from Wisconsin.
Well, the reason why I bring that up is, and the fact that you're from Wisconsin, most people from Wisconsin or the northern hemisphere, or northern portion of the United States, we try to find somewhere warmer to go. You went literally the same place except wetter.
Yeah, I didn't improve my weather situation or the tick population. I moved from one bad region to another region. It just so happens that it's just how life kind of directed me to here. I had a good friend, or I still have a good friend. He went to high school with him. We were roommates in college, and years happened, and he decides to go hike on the Appalachian Trail in 2013 while I was recovering. And then a friend and I went and picked him up at Katahdin when he finished, and we were able to take a journey back down south on the way back home to Wisconsin. And the White Mountain Lodge and Hostel, which is what I now own, we stopped by for 3 or 4 days to kind of help the closing process down. I got to meet the owner, and it was just a really cool situation. Everyone was from the Midwest. Marnie Bumstead, she owned it from, she bought it halfway through 2013, and I came on and helped her out for the 2014 season. I moved out here 210 pounds. I was not my normal Marine Corps shaped body. Usually should be around 180, but I just kind of ballooned out to this intense thing. And then working for her for a summer and showing me how to eat healthy, she was able to kind of get me back on my feet. In a real sense that I was able to start hiking the Appalachian Trail in the fall of 2014. I did my first section with 300 miles and got to hike with southbounders completing their section. And these were southbounders that I met through the hostel when they came through here in that early July. So I got to hike with these guys from October till December 17th for my first section, and it was just a blast.
Dude, that's amazing. So you did the 18 sections.
Yes.
How long did it take you to do the whole thing?
I started the fall of 2014, and I finished June 16th of 2016.
Did you end up finishing up here in
Katahdin? Yeah, Katahdin was my end spot.
Very cool. Man, I've never done a trail like that, and I'm getting ready to finish my journey, and I see it a lot through people that do these epic expeditions. Mm-hmm. And what was your feelings and reactions when you got to the finish?
My feelings and reactions, boy, it was a mixed bag. The physical process in which your body starts to go into a starvation mode, and you get really skinny towards the end. Even though my last section was 1,000 miles, that's long enough to get what a thru hiker starts to. What's happening, your body goes to the starvation mode. So your body's requesting calories, and you're only able to give your body so much. The bugs in June 16th were absolutely terrible. So the being done at that time of the year was physically amazing to be done, and then be part of the 2,000 miler club, working at a hostel and having these awesome stories of people of different calibers and physical abilities. And then at the end of the first summer being here, I just kind of felt like that I knew I was coming back on the next year to help out Marnie because of all the magic that was happening here. And then I needed a piece of the trail, so I needed to start hiking it. I didn't know how long it was going to take me. But once I got into it and you get to the halfway point, even if in your sections, you just get motivated to keep going. But doing it in 4 sections in 2 years, I felt like that gave an opportunity to break up the trail so your body could heal, so you could go back home, dial in your pack, just kind of recalibrate what you're doing instead of having to do it completely on the fly for 6 months. Because that's a brutal thing. I don't think it's doing anyone's body any favors, but mentally, I'm sure when people do a thru hike and they finish it in 6 months and they get to be part of that thru hiker group, I'm sure it's probably a similar sparkle pattern when you're graduating a boot camp. It's just this amazingly hard thing that not very many people do, and you're done. And then now you got to figure out what's next.
Yep. Yeah, learning how to pack and stuff, you brought that up. I want to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to talk about how we met in 2018.
Yeah.
And some of the crazy stuff that I was carrying then.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when we come back.
Excellent.
All right. Now that you're listening to the podcast, take a moment on the service or the app that you're listening to this episode on and subscribe and comment. If you've already subscribed, thank you. Now, please add a comment. This helps the podcast in searches and informs others about what to expect from the show. Thank you again, and enjoy the rest of the episode.
Hey, so Eric, when we took a break, you were talking about how you finished the AT in 2016. There was a lot of stuff going on. Obviously, you were in full focus for the AT, the hikers coming through for those times. But 2018, I came through, and I showed up sometime in July. And I know that it was crazy time for you here because, one, it was fully booked.
Yeah.
There was no beds, but you were kind enough to set me up inside your tent house that you had out back.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I remember that now.
Yeah, one of the things that I really took from this place when I was visiting here was the first thing that you said to me when I first pulled up to the property. And it was like, holy crap, man, why do you have so much stuff? Something to that effect. And then after telling you all the stuff that I actually had in it, you're like, why do you have that much food?
Yeah, it was definitely interesting to see just working at an Appalachian Trail hiker hostel, and you watch folks who are walking up and down trail who are in the woods, up in mountains in elevation, anywhere from 1 mile to 7-8 miles from town, and they have to walk 5 days with 5 days of food, and there's no resupply option up in the mountains. So after me personally being able to complete the Appalachian Trail and knowing how we ration food and what we deemed our emergency food, and so when you came rolling in with I think you had like a 50-pound emergency food supply or something, like rice, like enough rice to the feast of small country for a while. It was awesome.
Yeah, a lot of dehydrated foods too.
It's amazing. Like a lot of people, when they initially start the Appalachian Trail, are probably doing anything super long distance for the first time. I see a common. A lot of people, and I myself, usually whatever you subconsciously might fear the most, that's what you end up packing more into your bag than normal. So some people are afraid of bears or whatever, they're going to end up carrying a can of pepper spray, a whistle, and whatever else deterrent and they kind of just overpack stuff. So some people are concerned that they might get really cold at night. They'll end up bringing way more extra warm gear than they needed, and they end up having to drop it. So it's the little learning process and stuff. It was cool for you to come in, and that's what's neat here is that biking culture and the through hiking culture, long distancing now can start to blend here, and they can see each other how they do their own version of adventure. So if you're a biker, you're kind of set up a certain way, but when you meet a through hiker,
it's totally different.
Let's say like if you met a through hiker before you even packed, you would have had a completely different idea of how you were going to hit the road. You probably would have had about 100 pounds less of gear on there, but it's awesome. I mean, it's better to be over-prepared than under-prepared.
Oh, absolutely. Well, one of the things I learned the most while being here is seeing all the hikers packing all the stuff after they go do like a Walmart or a store run.
Yeah.
And they're taking things out of bags, out of bottles, they're putting them in Ziplocs, they're doing all these different things. And I ended up watching some people do their packs and getting them ready. And I went and unpacked my bike and repacked it. And I ended up leaving here with 20 pounds less.
Yep.
I remember it was.
It still looked like a lot of weight, but it was less. I was happy to see at least to remove some of that. Like, boy, you're working this way too hard.
No, it was nothing compared to having my camper.
Yeah. I mean, what does it feel like now after you've done so many states? I mean, looking back at what you started with your gear and what you have now, like you just kind of laugh at yourself a little bit, or?
Well, yes and no. I think it's crazy how much stuff I started with.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I ended up building a camper and towing something that was even heavier.
Yeah.
So looking at it, not having a camper anymore, I don't think I could do it after the accident. But yeah, some of the stuff that I was carrying, I look back on it and I didn't know. I've never used it. I've gotten rid of it since then, or passed it along. But it's crazy what you really need when you're out there long enough.
It's a very veteran thing to do because we're used to carrying all the gear.
Yeah.
Like the Molly gear system back in the 98 or whenever they came out with that. I mean, it's like 90 pounds worth of stuff, and your MREs carry water, and water is 2.2 pounds a liter. So if you got all this extra food in there, it's carrying water weight on top of your back. It's just insane.
Yeah, it adds up. Hey, but so since I've been here, the last time I was here in 2018 when I stayed in your tent house out back in the woods, you've done a lot of developments. I'm going to tell everybody right now, I'm looking out the window. It's still a little breezy here. There is now a football-sized field parking lot where that tent house was. What else have you been What else has been going on at the hostel here over the last 3 years?
Well, my hand was forced to do some of these developments you see in the back are just a result of taking lemons and making lemonades. In 2017, there was a severe storm that dropped down on New Hampshire and Maine, and it knocked a lot of power out. It did a lot of things to rivers, and it opened up a situation in my back where was starting to potentially flood my cottage where we're sitting right now. There was reports written by the environmental services stating what was happening, but no one was helping me out with it. The DOT wouldn't help me. I went to the state. I went to the senator's office. I went to the governor's office. I went to Homeland Security because this affects the highway and personal safety of citizens. And I got an attorney, a land law attorney, and because of the situation in the back that was created by a power company a long time ago, they went bankrupt. And then there was no one to be held accountable for the infrastructure that was in the back, controlling the water onto my property. It was all gone. So now when the rains come down the mountain of Rattle River being named because of the rock sounds that bang together when they come down the river. Yeah. It's pretty loud and intense. So it's kind of always eroding my property. So I had to... From that, storm had overloaded my pond with sand, and then my pond was filled, and I didn't know what to do. So I ended up getting an excavator, and then we removed the sand out, created a bigger parking lot. There's always a parking issue in the White Mountains because we're a very heavily traveled area because we have all the trails. So it just kind of extended to opening up a back area for more parking, because now we have this bike trail, this cross-country New Hampshire bike trail that's 1/4 mile from my hostel. It goes from Maine to Vermont. That's 83 miles, just opened up last year.
Which is amazing, by the way. I want to actually talk about that.
Yeah.
You know, that bike trail that you're talking about didn't exist when I was here last time.
No, it didn't.
But what's cool about it is it connects to the trail that I did do, which was the Cross Vermont Trail. So now that you have the Cross Vermont connect to the Cross New Hampshire Trail, which goes now into a little bit of Maine, you know, it's pretty amazing how these are all connecting now. Because from Vermont, it goes down into certain areas of like the New York area, and then you connect all the way down to Lake Erie, all the way to Buffalo.
That's crazy.
Into Ohio. So there's a lot of trails being connected, and I think it's amazing that it's so close to you. But that is something that you just learned about recently being developed.
This wonderful lady, Mary Ann, she got a grant and she developed this new 83-mile connecting rails to trails, doing a backcountry course through the presidentials. It goes from Bethel, Maine to Woodsville, New Hampshire. It's kind of going east to west. Super cool. She did this with the intent of also making it an e-bike class 2 rated trail. So you can ride an e-bike all the way through New Hampshire out the other end with safety. It's in case anyone wants to know what a class 2 e-bike is an e-bike that does not go over 20 miles an hour.
Okay.
And I've heard in the White Mountains that you can receive a ticket up to $1,500 if caught speeding on one of these bike trails. So that is a hefty fine, just to let everyone know, to pay attention to everywhere and to be responsible as an e-bike person as we merge into the bicycle culture, that we have to bring an awareness that it's new and it may not be met with the same openness as of a lot of people. And we just slowly blend in and blend in nice. When you're in town, ride your bike like everyone else is riding your bike, and just be more mindful that your bikes are quiet and you can sneak up on people too, give them a heart attack.
Yeah, I love
their ultimate drive-by little car e-bikes. They make no sound.
You know, I've avoided e-bike my entire journey.
Yeah.
Up until yesterday. And I bring that up because you have the e-bike. You let me and Alex try it out. But that's just the starting of it. You've been developing an e-bike company for bike rentals for the area.
Yes.
I definitely want to explain that more. But I also, when you told me about that and the inspiration behind it, you know, that was really impactful for me. So I would love if you.
Oh, absolutely. So every year we have a Hostel meeting group that's kind of new up here, and then we share ideas. So Norwich, Vermont has Norwich Adventure Tours, is a hostel and e-bike rental place. They started last year. So we had our meeting down there, and then I got to see what an e-bike was, got to ride an e-bike for the first time, and they had a used one. They had a custom e-bike there that I was able to purchase pretty cheap. And I connected the dots with this cross-country New Hampshire trail. I didn't pay attention to it much because it was brand new. It's a bike trail. I was in my thru hiker season when we were really super dialed in for thru hikers. So I just was like, oh yeah, cool bike trail. And then when I rode the e-bike, I went, I wonder if this trail's a class 2 e-bike trail. And then sure enough, the lady made sure that was a thing. And I was like, holy smokes, what a cool deal. And I noticed that no one else was doing an e-bike rental shop anywhere else on this brand new course. No one has planted a flag specifically for an e-bike rental shop on this in New Hampshire. And we have rental shops for bicycles, ATVs, snowmobiles. You can rent everything up here and except e-bikes. So I got a hold of this company out in Minnesota, and the main distributor actually ended up being from St. Croix Falls, Wisconsin, which is my hometown.
That's crazy.
Another city of trails, which is beautiful. Tell everyone to go visit St. Croix Falls, Wisconsin. Absolutely gorgeous. If you like to bike and hike and do all those things, it's got the same thing here. So the progression of the company evolved really fast. So that was March 18th that I connected the dots with this e-bike trail and its proximity to me. It's not even, it's a 1/4 mile and it overlaps the Appalachian Trail. And I'm like, what a great idea to be able to have my thru hikers that stay with me to be able to ride an e-bike whenever they want. And they can go right into town. We got this backcountry course and they could safely get into town and be able to do the goods and services. And the town is completely booked with cars and the ATVs, and it's just really packed. So having thru hikers now have an ability to kind of scoot in and scoot out of town in a fun way. It's a good break from hiking. But I started the idea March 18th of this year, 2021, and it's what day is it now?
We're beginning of May.
We're at the beginning of May, so we just got the logo done. I got the LLC formed. Went with e-bike White Mountains LLC. It'll be ebikewhitemountains.com when it's all done. We don't even have the website up yet because I just ordered the bikes. They're still en route. The e-bikes this year just totally got snatched up. Every distributor is having a hard time. Orders were being swiped from other people. My original order, I had $20,000 worth of e-bikes coming and it got down to 10. So I'm just now getting 6 solid good bikes for people of all sizes. Even if you have a disability, it's still one of these bikes to kind of give you a good idea what other e-bikes that might be better than that one. And it's a good bike. You can put whatever you want on it and you get in town. It's a good tooling around bike.
Yeah, no, that's. I think it's. Personally, trying out the e-bike, it was cool to experience it, but I'm gonna stick to my manual bikes for now. But I like the idea of having e-bikes for people that wouldn't normally be able to get on a regular bicycle, or maybe not be able to get to town and back.
Absolutely. I could see the veteran sports adaptive team picking this up, veterans or anyone, with physical limitations is now able to extend the realm of their physical activity beyond what they could do if they could only walk to the end of a cul-de-sac. That's the farthest you can go, and that's your universe. And now this e-bike, you have a pedal assist. Yes, you can hit the throttle. Yes, you can just hit the throttle and you can not have to pedal at all. Or if you're working through rehab, trying to rebuild yourself, you can just use the minimal amount of pedal assist to build your muscles up. And then when it gets too hard or you get too far out or maybe your injury gets aggravated, irritated, you can just hit the throttle and go home, and you don't have to be stuck or fearful or limited in what you can do. And now you can zoom out. And like there's some people that won't take the e-bikes because they want a bicycle, and that's awesome. It's just now we got something for a little bit of everyone, and it's just now learning how to share the roads with everyone, because now we all need to exist in the same space. So hopefully this is a nice blend throughout the nationally and in any country that has these, that the e-bikes and regular bikes do find a good common ground and come to the understanding that we all deserve to be on these trails.
Of course, yeah, that, and as long as people are responsible, that's the hardest part, is to make sure that people are being responsible on a regular bicycle, in a car, on an e-bike. Just be responsible when you guys are out there doing activities.
I even proposed to the bicycle club how there's a Hike Safe New Hampshire card. So if you're hiking in New Hampshire, you can buy a Hike Safe card. Kind of gives you insurance if you do the right things in case you want to be rescued or something bad happens. And it puts towards funding towards park rangers in the state. That's where that goes to protecting our wilderness, and to offer this to the bike community to have a Hike Safe and Bike Safe cards, so everyone can follow the rules, understand leave no trace purposes when you're riding through country wilderness areas, that your paper products need to come with you. 100% of the time, and just be mindful and respect the trails and everything around you. And some of these trails do cut through people's private property, and they're just allowing access to that. So just everyone out there that's listening, just be mindful of everyone that's involved and just respect what's going on.
Yep, and love nature and respect it. Anything else you would like to before we end the conversation? You got any knowledge for the listeners directly?
One of the best thing I've seen here for the last, going on my 8th year now, and a very common theme is people get hung up with how many miles per day that they're trying to get. They're focused on this time and this date thing. There's no rule or extra award for doing a through hike or a through bike or a cross country massive adventure. It's one step, one pedal at a time, and you keep in your heart that fun per mile is the most important thing you need to take with you on trail, because you need to be present in the moment. You need to set yourself up mentally, physically, and financially for some of these long distance trips. That's how you're going to complete it. You need to have all those things taken care of. If you don't, and you're in the middle of a through hike or a long distance bike ride, and you have a goal set of doing 49 states, and you don't have your personal stuff taken care of at home, your bills and everything else taken care of, that could pull you off trail. And those are little mental prisons that can hang you up and prevent you from enjoying your journey the way you're supposed to. You're out there to detach yourself, to get yourself away from the static noise that's common in cities and your phone and our habitual need to look at our phones. This separates a lot of people from that. And it also brings up another thing. After you're separated in this new world from this technology, and then you go back into your real life and you don't have a real plan, always have a nice safety net after your long hike or bike or adventure. Whatever it is you're budgeting it out for, whatever your adventure is, always add another 1,000 to 2,000 to that number. And then always have a 3-month supply of cash to survive on after the trip. Because after the trip, you're going to realize you're going to see the world in a lot of different ways that you never saw before because of all the static noise. And this new people have been studying this trail depression that happens after through hikers do their jaunt and they go back home and they go back to the city, and now they're surrounded by people and the busyness, and then they're reintroduced back into the static everything, and there's like no transition. They have to go right back to work, and having a 3-month opportunity to ease yourself back into it. And I'm especially talking to vets, veterans who think they're going to get on a long distance hike to fix anything. The trail is just like counseling. It gives you 50% of the tools to get the job done, and then the other half is you and your self-care. So there has to be some kind of setup for you and a plan afterwards, where to go before you start the trail. So while you're doing it and you're nearing the end of your journey, and the elevation and the excitement of completing your journey is you're getting there, and you're not having that dumbed down by having this anxiety of what's going to happen after trail. It's like the worst thing, that is the worst mental prison for a journey like this, which is so special and unique, especially doing something like the Appalachian Trail or doing something like you're doing. You need to be present in that moment and just know that it's a very, you get to do that. You're very lucky and fortunate, and you're doing everyone a disservice who can't do those things by not being present in the moment and just taking it all in, and smelling the roses, as they say, and touching the trees, and getting in tune back in nature, because that's what's happened to a lot of us in society. Is we've detached ourselves from nature and our abilities to give ourselves a positive charge from the environment. We used to stick our hands in the soil. We used to walk barefoot on the ground, and we used to get this wonderful positive charge from the earth. And
grounding is amazing.
And we don't do that, especially in the northern country. We we disassociate from the ground. We wear shoes. It's cold 7 months of the year. And we're not touching our hands in the soil. And then when we do, we end up putting garden gloves on. So if you're a vet, come to my place, put your hands in the gardens, dig some soil in. It's good therapy. It's good for the soul. Get into nature. And yeah, that's all I got. And just be mindful of everyone on trail. Not everyone's hiking their own hike. Everyone's biking their own bike. And it's not up to you to decide how they do that. It's everyone's choice. Everyone saved up their own money, their own way. And if they don't want to do a through hike, they don't have to. And giving yourself a through hike mentality is just the wrong way to go about something like that. The creators of this trail did not intend for us to through hike it and blast through it in record time. They intended fun per mile, section hike, and take your time. And
as it should be. Erik, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For
Thank
that
you.
Message. There's things that I'm going to take from that personally, because as I get prepared to end my journey, I got to be more prepared. Again, thank you for having me. Thank you again.
Thank you. It's been awesome.
Here. And it's been a pleasure.
All right.
Copyright OPAT Movement 2021.